Hello and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. Today we review Pink Floyd's final official album, The Endless River, released in 2014. It's hard to describe this album, but it's basically a collection of instrumental recordings that are mostly based on ideas and stuff they had recorded during their sessions for their previous album, 1994's Division Bell. So basically 20 years after they finished that, the remaining band members, some of them, got together and made this. It's alright, slightly better than I was expecting, but there's really nothing outstanding here. This is the track listing, and these are the tracks I added to my playlist. 7 out of 18, around 40%. This album flows pretty well, and it's clear that was sort of the plan and the focus of the album. They really wanted it to go well together. Every track except the last doesn't really have any vocals at all, at least not officially. There's a few words in there, but they're not really song related. So this whole thing calls back to sort of an earlier Pink Floyd sound, but it's much more experienced now, which contributes to the album. Side 2 is probably the best in regards to songs that you can just kind of listen to. Although Side 3 also flows quite well, it doesn't have as good individual songs, I feel. The only single released before the rest of the album was the final track, Louder Than Words, which is the only track that has vocals. And it sounds more traditional and like something off of the Division Bell. So it's not bad, but it's definitely not anything great. My favorite track here, I probably gotta go with L&Z part, or the first one. Both sections of the song are pretty good as rock sort of instrumental pieces, but I think the first part is slightly better, possibly because it's kind of unexpected in the context of the rest of the album. But both of those tracks are pretty good, and there's quite a few good instrumental tracks here, but they really can't compete with any of most of Pink Floyd's other work. Now, I rank this album towards the middle bottom-ish of Pink Floyd's work, just under Obscured by Clouds and above Atom Heart Mother and Metal. This album pretty much only works as an album, not as any individual tracks. But as an album, it actually works pretty well. It's definitely not as good as any of their post-Obscured by Clouds work, and I think it barely beats out Metal and Atom Heart Mother due to the fact that the instrumental work is just more experienced here. This is the end of their career as opposed to basically the beginning. The album, it's good as an album because it's all instrumentals. It's not really great as individual tracks, so I feel that this position is sort of warranted, and it's really difficult for it to rise any higher than this. Unsurprisingly, this album doesn't take my top spot from 2014. That goes to George Ezra's debut album, One It on Voyage, which is definitely better and is sort of an actual album. It's not primarily instrumental. So there ends my review and ranking of all of Pink Floyd's official albums. I won't really go into any of their other work because that is a rabbit hole that is very, very deep. I'd rather listen to something else at this point. Really did enjoy Pink Floyd, I will say. Although I don't think they'll ever be my favorite band. Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall are both really good. All of their 70s albums really, I gotta say, are really quite good. And their 80s stuff isn't bad at all, so definitely glad I listened to them. Next up is Sting's album, 1987 album, ... Nothing Like the Sun. It's alright, it's certainly good, but I do feel that if you look at his catalog overall, he gets a lot better after this. This was his second album, and later on he has a lot better albums. But this one is still quite good, so as always, stay tuned for that. And stay minty.